All right, hello and welcome to GitHub Copilot CLI for absolute beginners. We're going to go through what GitHub Copilot CLI is, what you can use it for, some of its competitors and kind of how it compares to them, and then some great examples of getting started, getting installed, and getting going. All right, so let's jump in. What we'll be looking at today first is what even is this? So what GitHub Copilot is you're able to basically have a coding agent AI in your terminal. So instead of just having to prompt in a web-based window, you have it in your computer so that AI has access to things like your file system, your applications on your computer, everything like that. I have a video on MCPs if you're interested in kind of seeing how these agents connect to your computer. That'd be a great one for you to look at. But basically, this GitHub Copilot CLI is able to do actions on your behalf on your computer because it has access to it, versus when you're talking to ChatGPT in a web-based window, it just kind of gives you text from that prompt and you kind of just go back and forth. This way, GitHub Copilot CLI can go out and do things for you. Okay, so that's kind of the difference between web-based versus the CLI. And what that CLI looks like is it's the terminal. If you haven't used a terminal before, it can look kind of scary, but all this is just a way of interacting with your computer. And the GitHub Copilot makes it so much easier to do so, because previously you had to know all these commands, like this ls command lists out all these different items in this directory, and you had to it took a lot of practice. I took quite a few courses on CLI, and it's still difficult to use. What the Copilot app does is make it so you're kind of just having a conversation with the CLI, and you're able to still leverage all of that useful stuff that the CLI can do. Okay, so what you're seeing here is a terminal interface. You're able to kind of see, if we use the command Copilot, it opens up the GitHub Copilot CLI, and now you can just talk to it naturally in plain English. So why should you use this CLI? It helps, like I said, lower that intimidation factor through being able to talk in plain English. It can help you explain different codes and files, directories on your computer that maybe you didn't write or that you downloaded from GitHub, things like that. It's able to remember your previous sessions and kind of pick up where you left off. Whereas, if you kind of went through maybe Gemini and you had a different chat, it might not always be able to go back and remember exactly what that topic was or exactly what those decisions were. Whereas GitHub Copilot, you're not really leaving off from zero. It's always able to go back and look at some of the past context, which is really helpful. And then lastly here, you're able to work it in the background. So it's not at the forefront of everything that you do. You don't have to kind of wait for it to finish. You can just send it off to do a task, and it'll continue working in the background while you continue using your computer. It's a really great tool. I use GitHub Copilot CLI all the time, so I think that you guys would really like it. So GitHub Copilot CLI gets compared to Claude Code a lot, and I'm sure you've heard of Claude Code. It's really popular right now, but at its foundation, it does the same thing that Copilot CLI does, and I would argue that Copilot CLI has a couple features that make it even better than Claude Code. So at its foundation, these are both agentic CLI models that are able to have access to your computer so they can go out and do things for you on your behalf. These aren't different, prompting web-based windows where you're getting text back and forth. These are actual action agents that you can have on your computer. But what differentiates Copilot CLI from Claude Code are a few things. One of them is the way you sign in. You can use your GitHub account pretty easy, whereas Claude Code, you have to use an API and kind of set things up a little bit more intensely. So for beginners, I think Copilot's a lot easier. Then the models, and I think this is where Copilot really shines. You can use different models. You can switch between Anthropic, you can use Google Gemini, maybe Nano Banana for the image generation that you're doing. That's right now maybe the best model for image generation. You can use OpenAI for different infographics because it's really good at text rendering. And then if you're writing, let's say like a script or a copy for a website, then a lot of the Anthropic models are really good at writing and sounding very human and having that great output. And so with Copilot, you're able to leverage all those different models when you need them and how you need them. But when you use Claude Code, you are boxed into the Claude models. So you're using those like Opus and Sonnet and all of those models, and you're not really like playing around with what the best model is for what you're doing. And then lastly, that access to GitHub is so helpful because it gives you something called context. And context is really just remembering the things that you did before. And so these CLIs have much better context than a lot of the web-based platforms do. But eventually, when the context window gets so large and there's such a large volume of context to go through, that is when the AI will start hallucinating. You have a higher chance of an AI hallucinating the longer the context window is. And so with something like Claude, if you just continue that chat and it gets longer and longer, that context or that info gets bigger and bigger, you'll have a higher chance of hallucinations, or basically a worse output, because it's not looking at the information that you have in there. It's kind of giving you things that it's making up. And so when you have this GitHub integration, you're able to look at things like your repo, your code repo. It can go through and kind of glance through that really quick if you need it to. You can have documentation in there so it can kind of refresh its memory. And basically, as you're refreshing it, that window's getting shorter and shorter because now that information's fresh. And so now you're having a less of a chance of hallucination and just better outputs. It's also able to integrate with the GitHub kind of your platform there. So issues, PRs, anything that comes up, it's able to kind of go in and help you with additionally. So that's the difference. I think Copilot's a little easier for beginners. I love being able to use all those different models and then having that context refresh through being able to go through the docs, being able to go through your code regularly, I think is really helpful in getting really good outputs. Okay, up next, we want to talk about how you should get this downloaded. So now I think you're like, oh yeah, maybe I want to try this out. How do I actually get it into my computer? So you want to have a GitHub account. If you don't already, I think it's super useful. I use it as kind of like a big repository for different projects that I'm doing, different applications that I'm building, sometimes even just like notes and documentation I think is interesting, or from previous learnings that I have, so that my AI agent can go in and look at that when it needs to. And once you have that, you can just run this in your terminal. And then every time you want to start, you just type in Copilot. So you'll open up your terminal. For my Mac, it's terminal at the bottom. I click on that, and all I have to do once it's installed is type Copilot, and it puts me into this Copilot session. It's very easy. And like once you're logged in, you stay logged in. A couple things that will make it easier as you get started is basically talking to it and giving it as much context as you can. I use something called Whisperflow. It's a way for you to have a speech-to-text platform. So I click a button on my computer and I talk to it, and that will give me really good prompts, kind of more filled prompts. It makes it easier for me to get better outputs through using this. And then there are a couple different ways that I think make it a little bit better as well. So there's two modes that I want you to know as you're getting started. There is plan mode and there is autopilot mode. And all that you do is when you're in the Copilot window, you press the tab key, and that will change the mode that you're in. You're able to see that kind of change at the bottom. So when you're starting up, let's say I would use plan mode for something like, I have this new app idea. I want this, and this features. I want the user to have this experience. My goal for this is X and Y. Do you have any questions? Plan mode will help you kind of think through all of that and how everything will work together, and ultimately give you a better output. So once you have planned your app, then you might want to go into autopilot mode. And this is where I think the CLI and agentic solutions are just so like magic, because you can go into autopilot mode, and instead of going back and forth with the AI, it will just go and take care of things for you. So it will connect itself to your documents. It will write the code. It will save it to different documents. It will be able to go and do the things that it needs to do to accomplish the task that you wanted it to, without you having to click permissions every single time. Of course, you have to be careful. Of course, you don't want to just give everything access to everything all the time. But I think this is a really cool mode that you should try out. And I filter between those two all the time. I think it's really cool that they have such a directed mode for the things that you want to do. And then to point out a file, you use the @ sign. This helps it kind of with that context piece that you want to make sure that you're able to have that specific file that you're looking at, so that it doesn't hallucinate and look at many different things. this is the one, only pull from this that can make it really good to get a very specific output that you're looking for. And then if you're ever stuck, just type \help. And that will kind of give you all the things that it can do to help you with. And you can also just ask it at any time, like, what can you help me with? What can you do? I'm thinking about doing this. These are some of my ideas. And this is some of the things I want to get done this week. You can just talk to it conversationally, and it'll help and point you to the things that you need to do as well. All right. So once you get started, there are a couple of things that you can grow into. So you have the basics now. You can go out, you can download GitHub Copilot CLI, you can get started, have some fun, make something interesting. But now there are a couple things that you can do additionally. So something called skills. Skills is a way for you to basically teach your AI how you want it to act. And so I think of skills as kind of an onboarding document for an intern. When an intern first gets to a company, they don't know what they're doing. And so you need some kind of documentation, something there that can help them along the way, help them learn how your company does things, how you like things. If they were to write a report to you, what would that report look like? So you can give it some templates in there. That's all skills do. You're able to give it a document and kind of say, when I ask for this, I want it to look like this. Done. Same with your preferences. You're able to kind of talk to it in a way that I always want you to give me abbreviated version of anything that I'm asking for. Never give me over, 5 sentences of an explanation when I ask you a question. You can ask for that, and then it will have these custom preference settings for you within GitHub Copilot that are just there all the time. So these aren't things that you need at the beginning, but as you start using it, you'll start to get those preferences. You'll need those skills. There'll be tasks that you do often. And if you find yourself kind of tweaking things a little bit each time, then it would be worth it to make a skill for that so that you get that output easy every time. Okay. I hope this was helpful. I want you to now go to my school community, and in that, once you sign up, I have these guides in there. I have the GitHub starter kit here. It tells you everything of how to get this going, everything we talked about here. Great starter kit for you to get this up and running, and then your first 10 prompts, things that would be helpful for you to use GitHub Copilot for. That's all in my school community, in addition to other AI tools, other walkthroughs. I have that jam-packed with value. I think you'll really love being there and really love the community. So please go ahead and give it a try. And then lastly, if you thought that this looked cool, that this video, this kind of site that we're going through looks cool, then you'll love Lovable, and they're the sponsor of today's video. So in my link in my description below, you're able to click on there, try out Lovable. I think that they are one of the best ways for you to get interesting prototypes, websites, applications done fast and beautifully. So something that AI isn't always great at is having good taste. And I think we can all see when there's something that comes out and it just looks like AI slop. I would say that Lovable is one of the better tools for creating things that are beautiful and have that kind of human element, human taste to it. So feel free to try that in the description below. You can try it out for free. And then if you end up signing up, it really helps support the channel. All right, so put in the comments below what you're going to do with your GitHub CLI first. And if this was helpful, hit the like button and subscribe. We do things like this all the time. Thank you for being here. Talk to you soon.